All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to uh, the channel. This is the seventh installment of, and I guess the week-long anniversary of these daily uploads. Um, and progress report. It's got a lot more traction than I kind of expected. The first video almost has 3,000 views, which is pretty impressive. To me anyway. I kind of expected us to be sitting around 40 views at this point, but people are consistently tuning in to watch Moist Critical get his nipples twisted on a daily basis, which I think is kind of a beautiful thing. And I'm trying, like, there's no denying that the formula of Charlie's videos, I think, has already been, like, pretty much blown out of the water. It really didn't take long before there was almost no new insights to, I guess, really provide about his lazy, shitty content. And I see this channel kind of working, like, against Charlie's channel in these inverse / hypocritical ways, because people are saying, like, oh, I've seen some comments like, this guy's a hypocrite, and I think the idea is that because I'm accusing Charlie of sitting around and making lazy videos every single day, that by me doing the same thing, that I'm just as guilty as he is. But I would argue that by doing the same thing he is, I'm kind of highlighting in, like, sort of a more absurd way how formulaic and shite his videos are. That's kind of my intention. And I've also got some comments saying, like, what? This guy's a fucking unhinged loser lunatic. And it's like, yeah, dude, that's kind of what I'm going for here. Like, my fantasy with this is for some guy or girl, whoever, who hates Moist Critical with a passion and goes on his channel, maybe hate watches a couple videos, looks at the like to dislike bar ratio, reads some comments, and is confounded and angry with the reception, unanimously positive reception of this low effort crap YouTuber, and they just feel alienated, they feel alone, and they feel unheard. And then one day, let's say a couple of weeks down the line, a month down the line, they stumble across the Posers Zero YouTube channel, and they see a wall, 50 videos, 100 videos, daily uploads dedicated to undermining this person that they fucking hate. I mean, that's why I do it. That's why I'm here. And of course it looks unhinged. It's unhinged by design. And people, that's almost like that criticism is such an expected reaction or response from a Moist Critical fan, because he's basically trained people to be, condescending and judgmental, while kind of appreciating none of, like, condemning but not appreciating the absurdity of shit that might otherwise be funny. Like, if nothing else, even if you hate me and you hate what I'm doing, if nothing else, the act of what I'm doing, the fact that I'm coming back here every single day to sit down at the computer and talk shit on this guy is funny. That no matter what, the exercise, it's not necessarily about the contents of every single video, because sometimes it is going to get mundane, sometimes it is going to get repetitive. If you go to a brick wall and you get a microscope and you analyze every single brick, you're going to get bored of it eventually, and they might kind of start looking the same. But when you zoom out, you see this grand structure, and that structure is practical and it serves a purpose. And what I'm trying to do is take Charlie's, I would say his bricks are more fashioned with human feces, and my bricks are like infused or imbued with magic powers. Like, I'm trying to build a structure that rivals his structure, but my structure will be a force for good, while his structure is a force for evil, if you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, moving on, I got a suggestion that said, you should watch Charlie talk about art. And that's what I'm going to do today. So I've already watched this. I watched it on the dog walk. And I think that for these videos to be a little bit better, like while I make eggs in the morning, maybe I'll have to do 5 minutes of research. Jesus Christ. Excuse me. Speaking of eggs, I will have to do like 5 minutes of research to kind of keep things going. Because while this is going to get boring at times and be mundane, I'm going to make it interesting when I can. And if there's a new idea, I'm going to do it.
The most hated artist you probably recognize.
These paintings make my corneas hurt. I'm ashamed that this
Damien
artist
Hirst.
lived in my former hometown. The George
This is
W.
Damien Hirst.
Bush of art. Worthless. They make me want to puke. They are false works. They are awful. The worst paintings I've ever seen, and they will haunt me for the next half an hour. Those are all real quotes from comments, reviews, and articles concerning one artist and his work. Gee, these paintings must be pretty bad then,
It's Damien Hirst,
what
isn't
are they,
it?
pictures of babies eating each other alive? The scatological scribbles of a lunatic? No. These are the kinds of paintings those quotes are referring to.
So I love his confusion already from seeing this art that I think kind of aligns, checks the boxes, or meets Moist Critical's expectations of what art is supposed to be, because I think he has like a very kind of basic understanding and contempt for modern art that is very common amongst people who don't give a fuck about art or don't care about art, don't spend their time looking at art. They kind of just expect and demand that something that they don't care about or spend any time learning about will make sense to them immediately. And if it doesn't, then they are going to call it trash and shit and garbage, which is, you know, kind of what happens here. But this, on the other hand, it's like this fits what most people's idea of good art is supposed to be, which is more almost a display of skill kind of than anything else, which is like this took talent and practice to create. Therefore, it is a good piece of art, which in my opinion, you know, and I'm no art expert or art historian. I took some classes at community college and I've taken a lot of photos over, you know, the last 6-7 years, but I'm not like an art pro or an art expert or anything. Just in my personal worldview, there's a lot more that goes into art than just skill. Skill's obviously important, but it's like, you know, conceptually, you know, what is somebody thinking about when they're doing, what is their intention, you know, what is the scope of art history that has kind of led to a certain point? Because if you just look at, you know, pieces of art in isolation, they don't always make sense. You know, anybody who's been to a museum, I think, will probably know that if you look at a piece of art and you don't really get what's going on, if you read the plaque next to it, it tends to help.
Now, if you're like me, you might be a bit confused. Why
actually, yeah.
These are works
Artists
by
suck.
the late artist Thomas Kinkade.
God damn it.
You can make a very good case that Thomas Kinkade was the most successful artist in the 21st century so far. His works can be seen on mugs, t-shirts, calendars, and probably somewhere in your grandmother's living room. Thomas Kinkade's own company claims his work can be seen in 1 out of every 20 American homes, and at the height of his career, his company generated $130 million in sales in 1 year. Now, I can totally see I hate Thomas Kinkade with every fiber of my being.
Channel that energy to someone that deserves it, like Damien Hirst.
So he hates Damien Hirst and Jackson Pollock. I think he gets into that later. I also saw this video that he uploaded where, you know, he's basically talking shit on Jackson Pollock a bunch, which is obvious, you know. To me, it's just like there's people out there, and maybe this you can learn how to kind of appreciate art, or maybe there's people who just aren't naturally inclined and lack the sensibility to kind of distinguish like a Jackson Pollock versus something a 5-year-old does, because that's what people always say, like, well, my 5-year-old could do a Jackson Pollock. It's like, dude, no, they fucking can't. And like, if you're calling anybody pretentious that sees a difference between what Jackson Pollock is doing and a 5-year-old is doing, like, you don't fucking care enough to try to like see the difference, and you like lack the capacity to understand, like, I would argue, like, beauty or composition or any other fucking fancy adjective you'd like to use to be able, to see a difference in those two things. Also, not that this really is that relevant, but they've done studies on the shit that abstract contemporary artists do versus the shit that 5-year-olds are doing, and they're not using the same side of their brain. I don't know if that's like a bullshit article or something, but I do remember reading that once.
Kincaid's paintings, but in my opinion, there is something wrong.
Like, just again, sorry not to keep yapping here, but if you look at where Charlie broadcasts from, like the fact that he sits and he goes, well, I don't understand contemporary art, it's bullshit. It's like, dude, no shit. You're streaming from like a fucking anime dungeon.
With people that like his paintings. Yeah, that's basically the same thing. What could have possibly prompted such venom?
Lazy Deer One wishing well.
Paintings. What you'll find is that the reason for this hatred may have less to do with the art itself and more to do with matters of taste, the art world, and even, as you saw in the last comment, politics. Today we'll learn about the many reasons to hate.
Well, this sounds interesting. I don't know why more people don't hate people like Damien Hirst and Jackson Pollock. Their work is the most awful dog shit ever.
Before his business adventures,
like, Jackson Pollock is not dog shit, man. Like, some of the stuff, sure, I get it. You look at it, and I think it angers somebody like, Moist Critical, because he's like, well, it's not resembling real life. It just looks like a bunch of scribbles and patterns and stuff, where it's like, I would just say, if you can't see, like, if this doesn't appeal to you in any way, or you can't see that there's like any kind of, I don't know, color theory or relationship to each part of this painting, from one bit to the other, then okay, whatever. But like, just calling it complete dog shit while, not trying to understand the history of everything. I think that if, like, what's that fucking the urinal bit or whatever, and sorry, this is kind of a basic talk about art, but the urinal piece, it's like there's a whole Duchamp, that's it, there's a whole, like, historical significance to dumping a urinal in an art museum. And there's an entire statement about whatever all of the significance of that is supposed to mean. And I'm just saying, like, if you don't take, if you just see like these things that are kind of lauded and coveted as important artists and important pieces of art, and you just go, it's all bullshit, fuck it, like, it's pretentious, I don't care. It's like, come to that opinion after you do a little bit of research, in my opinion anyway. And this isn't my favorite shit or anything, but I can understand the appeal of it, because it's like, what are we supposed to do, like, for generation after generation, like, keep painting the Mona Lisa? No, like, things have to change, and there are going to be responses in art, just like in everything else, to different movements.
Kincaid worked in background painting for an animated film.
As far as the actual technique goes, for the most part, we used a simple technical procedure. We just start out with a big white brush and lay the thing in. Very scrubby at first, and then as we went, we gradually tighten the stroke.
Painting always impresses me, because it's so fucking hard.
And it worked. There are people who were
It looks
passionate
fine
about these paintings. Clearly, many are willing to pay for reproductions, and many collect them religiously. The people who buy them are glad to have them. They find comfort in them. It is estimated his business brought in $100 million in revenue annually.
Art is always subjective. Yeah, until it comes to Damien Hirst and Jackson Pollock, then it is objectively dog shit.
You'll find a lot of negative.
God, he's such a cunt, isn't he? Oh my God. In double speed too. So I mean, in terms of Thomas Kincaid's work, it's like, it almost borders, like, it's in my opinion anyway, it's kind of between, being fairy tale like, it's all like almost fairy tale like, and it's clearly like a very idealistic view of the world. It's supposed to just be like serene. It's very basic. I almost wish it would go like a little bit more absurd, and we'd have like a fucking flying toad over here or something. But I think that would probably turn a lot of people off. It's really basic. If anything, like, my criticism of it, and why I would not want a Thomas Kincaid anywhere that I am, is just because, like, it has like a kind of like a sickly warmth to it, that these paintings personally make me feel like I'm either in a car, or I saw Dune the other night in the movie theater, and like I came in with a hoodie and it was just hot as fuck in there. You go into a movie and you expect that it's going to be air conditioned to shit, so you sort of dress for it to be cold. And I took the hoodie off, obviously, but these paintings just kind of remind me of a little, like I'm being a little bit suffocated because the temperature in the room is about 4 or 5 degrees hotter than you'd like it to be.
That use the word kitsch. This word appears everywhere. Kitsch, kitsch, king of kitsch. But what is kitsch? My first vague understanding of the word was something that's popular but also poor quality. The Oxford Art Dictionary attempts to define it as objects or design considered to be in poor taste because of excessive garishness or sentimentality, but that might be too narrow. According to cultural critic Walter Benjamin, kitsch is, unlike art, a utilitarian object lacking all critical distance between object and observer.
God, these people are so fucking pretentious, it hurts.
Like, this is why I think looking at, you know, art is such a great exercise to understand Moist Critical's mentality about the world, which is, you know, he is a guy who professionally sits in a chair while shitting on stuff, but he never takes the time really, like he he wants to. I wrote a note for this. I said art is because this was like a very important part, so I want to say it correctly. Art is a perfect thing for Charlie to look at because it challenges his worldview. He makes a living off condemning things while simultaneously not really attempting to understand them. So it's almost like he's so heavily rewarded and, you know, financially and otherwise, it's within his best interest to just keep pumping stuff out daily and daily and daily, never take the time to do research and try to understand something that isn't just on a surface level. Like, there's almost no reason or incentive for him to do so. So when he comes across a subject matter that is more complicated, you know, like art, he's just going to sit there and go, this is all pretentious. Like anything that requires, you know, these people that spend their entire lives trying to understand this shit because they have formulated opinions that sound relatively complex to you, then they're fucking pretentious. It's like, dude, your reading or your barometer for what pretentiousness is so fucking off. Anything that isn't lazy and immediately obvious is pretentious to you. And I think that's a like, and this is why I fucking hate this dude. That's like such a lazy and pathetic fucking worldview to have on stuff. It's like anybody who spends time learning about shit is fucking pretentious. Sure, there's all kinds of pretentious shit in the art world. I will agree with that. But people objecting to Thomas Kincaid's paintings, calling them objective or calling them fucking pretentious, it's like, dude, that's not pretentious to think those paintings suck. They're like, there's all kinds of art out there that is way fucking better than what Thomas Kincaid was producing.
It hurts.
Effort.
Pretty much any art that looks like it takes talent, people don't like in the art industry.
Oh my God, dude. His opinions are so fucking moist predictable.
I guarantee you, Damien Hirst, Jackson Pollock, all of like your most famous artists, like more modern artists. I guess Jackson Pollock doesn't fit into that.
Of course, like that's all that he would want is art that is technically difficult. Like it almost seems as though, you know, the majority of people in the world, their concept of art is like if you can draw something photorealistically, then you are just the best fucking artist.
I guarantee they couldn't draw a single person's face. They couldn't paint a single thing that looks like anything.
So he's saying Jackson Pollock and Damien Hirst can't draw or paint anything that looks realistic. I don't know, maybe. But I do know that the majority of people that that are successful contemporary artists, they all go to art school, they all study art. It's not because these people don't resort to painting, you know, a bunch of circles on a canvas because they can't, you know, draw a naked woman picking a fucking peach out of a peach tree with like a jaguar running down a stream next to them in some like medieval style. That's not why they do what they do. If they wanted to do that and they think they'd be successful doing that, then they would. But it's like, it's about exploring different ways of like, you know, expressing what art even is. It's all like one thing builds upon itself, which builds upon another, which builds upon another. And I just think like coming into a discussion about art with the lack of, education or even attempt to understand, and this closed-mindedness that he has. That's what I object to.
It's just abstract dog shit that even a child could make.
He's such a fucking dick.
Yeah, I remember Bob Ross was shit upon by most like fart sniffing artists back in.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with what Bob Ross does, but he literally makes painting tutorials. Like, he's not like a fine artist, and like, I like Bob Ross's paintings, but there's nothing, I don't think, especially unique in terms of the product of what Bob Ross does. And I think that's probably by design. If he's trying to teach other people how to paint, is like, yeah, it should be simple and accessible. But Bob Ross doesn't have anything to do with what's going on here. Of course, people that are art snobs and, obsessed with art are gonna not really care, or they're gonna dislike, Bob Ross's paintings, because if you go on Etsy, there's 10,000 paintings for sale that look just like anything Bob Ross painted. And Bob Ross is probably a little bit better, but you catch my drift. Stylistically, the subject matter and the way in which they're painted, it's pretty basic shit.
In the day. I do remember that. Again, anything that looks like it has any form or shape to it, or anything that looks like it took time and effort, is very frowned upon in the community. Looks like such a wholesome guy.
Rockwell, mainly because of his appeal to American values and usually cheerful scenes. Some have even put both their work
Was
in
it
the
Brian
same
Bobbiнгton?
dreaded category of kitsch. But I think a more fitting comparison is Bob Ross.
Oh, boy wonder.
Now, I love Bob Ross. I mean, who doesn't? But
Yeah,
I
how could
also
you
call
not?
his work challenging. In fact, one can make the case that it is kitsch. No, the significance of Bob Ross is not really his art, but the hundreds of PBS videos he made painting.
Damn.
Bob Ross was
I've had a really cool idea for a while. Someone in the chat just reminded me of this. I thought
And Bob Ross's shit obviously works because he's trying to make it accessible. So it being kitsch or, corny is, I don't think it's like a valid criticism of Bob Ross's
That'd
shit.
be a really
Not that I think this guy's, and who made the original video, is trying to say that.
interesting idea if I did like some dog shitty Damien Hirst, Jackson Pollock style art under a pseudonym, and then just had like a really wealthy person I know buy it for an absurd amount and I just give the money back, obviously, but making headlines just to get that name out there and see if I could get some real genuine stupid rich assholes to buy my work.
I'd like to see Moist Critical's attempt at making contemporary art.
So I was wondering, it's something I've been thinking about doing, but I need to find who would do it.
And again, I don't want to sound like I'm like a huge defender of modern art or anything like that, because I do think there's bullshit about it. And I think that, somebody like Damien Hirst, it's like these people are kind of like products of their environment, where like, he'll steal shit and he'll make some whack stuff. But I think he also makes plenty of cool stuff. It's like, really, the art market is kind of the villain or the culprit in most of this shit that art has been. I watched a video, what was it? I don't remember, but I watched a video where a guy made a much more interesting criticism of contemporary art, which is, the way in which paintings are non-objective paintings, like with squares and splatter art, all of that stuff. It's a way of expression that has much less baggage attached to it, in terms of like, you don't need to know every single technique, you don't need to have gone to art school. Like, the barriers of entry for creating this style of art are much lower, so that it was almost like empowering to the common person. Modern art was empowering to like the modern person, because it didn't have all of it didn't have all of the shit that other types of like more traditional art would have. So that the real criticism, or this is a very valid criticism of modern art, is that the fact that modern art has basically been reduced, or has had the same fate that other classic paintings that are selling for $400 million has had, is they're all just turned into commodified, inaccessible investments for the ultra wealthy. So the spirit of what kind of made modern or contemporary art different has been removed from, or removed, or it's lost its kind of like initial soulful appeal.
Gonna try and ask Gronk about it, but I just feel like he really...
And by the way, this is all stuff that I learned in fucking 5 minutes of searching this shit up. Like, that's how long it takes to have a more nuanced opinion than MoistInfidel.
wouldn't. I don't think he'd want to, but I really think it's a good idea, because most of these big artists like Damien Hirst are big because they know rich people that buy the fucking art from them for money laundering purposes. And I feel like you can replicate that if you just know someone with a lot of money. Isn't that illegal? Yep. But that's how all big modern artists start. Look up Damien Hirst's history. He doesn't even make the art himself anymore. He has people paint the polka dots for him, but he sells it as his to people he already knows.
The paint.
I mean, yeah, I it's not really a a surprise anymore. Like most big artists, I mean, I don't really have that much of an opinion about it, because you can make the argument like, well, it's his ideas that he's paying and commissioning other people, you know, to bring to fruition. So what difference does it make? But like, you know, tons of popular famous artists have people that work for them. That's just like, you know, standard practice, I guess, whether you like it or not.
Of light.
Wouldn't say things out loud fuck you in the future? No, you never know with me. I have a cool pseudonym.
Not something I would consider a remarkable use of
Brainian Burst.
These guys, Cade was also not shy to talk
You met
about
the
Christian
Pope?
beliefs and conservative family values. The prominent light so often seen in his paintings, he said, represented the light of God penetrating the darkness. One quote critics give me is, Tom, your work is irrelevant. Kind of a fascinating comment. Yes, irrelevant to the little subculture, this microculture of modern art. But here's the point. My art is relevant because it's relevant to 10 million people. That makes me the most relevant artist in this culture, not the least, because I'm relevant to real people. Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah, he doesn't seem
also
super
allegedly
likable.
frequently engaged. Many gallery owners claimed Kincaid had ruined them financially in the name of God. Kincaid dismissed these accusations while also
It is what God would want, I think.
Kincaid was also an alcoholic,
Arkham.
and as his businesses began to decline, he
Exit
engaged
tier
more
one.
frequently in drunken
Crandall and
episodes,
recent
where he
poser.
turned to cursing, heckling performers, one accusation of groping, urinating on a Winnie the Pooh statue while yelling, "This one's for you, Walt," which I don't think that one's bad. That's hilarious.
That's pretty
Or
cool, actually.
driving, which is less hilarious.
He's been wearing a Jackson Pollock
Eventually, on
shirt.
April 6, 2012, he was killed by an accidental overdose of Valium and alcohol.
Wow.
If you're still wondering how people can hate a Thomas Kincaid artwork for political reasons, well, it's because the artist himself politicized them. That's how you can get articles like Thomas Kincaid.
Sorry, doing a lot of fast forwarding because Charlie's not really saying much. You know, the video's kind of just playing in the background.
The George W. Bush of art. Their reasoning? Kincaid, like Bush, peddled a falsely simplified image of the world, and that the same bad taste that made people invest in fraudulent galleries also elected George Bush and sent their children off to die.
Okay.
There's even another article titled
Bro, it's a jigsaw
Bush
puzzle
a better
painting.
painter than Thomas Kincaid, which argues
Man's
that
looking for a
George
fucking
Bush's
intricate view of the world that challenges thought process with a fucking jigsaw puzzle.
Because they are more inventive is one that echoes Clement Greenberg's 80-year-old essay on the avant-garde and kitsch. We think it's stupid art for stupid people.
How can you like how do you read this and not just get insulted? Like reading pretentious garbage like this is so upsetting to me. Like you can say the same thing without looking like a douchebag.
I think there's some merit to the idea that people intentionally make the discussion around art confusing for the sake of kind of creating this sense of deeper understanding about art, maybe than like that is actually there. So people will spend a lot of time, you know, making things that could be straightforward a little bit confusing. I think that there is some truth to that, but I think, you know, that's on one side of the spectrum, and Moist Critical's on the other side of the spectrum, where, you know, he doesn't really even try to understand any of the shit that is being talked about. He just immediately dismisses it. So there are all kinds of criticisms that are fair of the art world, and I think that the pretentious writing style in which some of, you know, these paintings are described is valid. But I don't really think that Charlie even really knows enough about art to know why, you know, maybe he's accidentally right for once.
And then of course this, we think it's stupid art for stupid people, yet people paying millions for Jackson Pollock's absolute trash. I always go back to Jackson Pollock and Damien Hirst, but there's millions of others.
But, and I know this is like a cardinal sin according to art critics, I don't hate Kincaid's art. Some paintings I like. Some I wouldn't mind having a print of. Quite a few I find excessive, and quite a few I find downright horrendous. People often insult Kincaid's work by calling them greeting card
See, it's funny. I kind of think that this one, which has like these Disney characters in it, this is kind of what I was asking for in terms of just fully going on into the absurd. I'd rather look at an absurd, almost like satirical. Like this looks like he's satirizing himself, you know. I'd rather look at something like this than just kind of like the bland version of it.
Horrendous. People often insult Kincaid's work by calling them greeting card illustrations.
That one's pretty good. I like this one. It looks maybe this was one of his earlier works before he started like applying, you know, this glow filter to it.
Kincaid's work by calling them greeting card illustrations. Well, greeting cards need illustrations, don't they? Or else they would just be white pieces of folded paper.
Sure,
with text.
checkmate.
Hate them or love them, maybe the kind of vicious hatred for his art from the art world still seen today.
I am curious, what gets seen in high-class museums now? I'm pretty sure all of it is that super trash thing, like a banana taped to a wall, or like Banksy's balloon picture, stuff like that. Let me see.
I love the drama that was caused with the banana taped to the wall. How mad that made people, because I viewed that and I was just like, well, this looks like it was a complete success. Like clearly, for you know, a quick skateboarding comparison, when Palace did the Thrasher collab, I'm like, this is clear. This seems very much just like intentional trolling. you know, to take the Thrasher logo and just write it in a Palace font. I viewed the same thing with the banana taped to the wall. You know, this only like this is going to be like it's all I viewed it as like almost like a commentary on the relationship between, you know, people that are, you know, outraged by modern art and the people that will still, you know, will still fucking buy it. It's like it produced the most predictable outcome. You knew exactly what would happen when somebody sold a banana taped to a wall, which is just like a fuck you to everybody, and everybody reacted exactly according to the script.
Well, it's like the most modern art exhibition that just happened. There's gotta be something for 2021. Well, I mean, even on just their homepage, like their art collection here is kind of ass. Looks like these kids did this. Looks like they vandalized an art piece, but this is apparently the piece that's on display.
I mean, this one's like okay, but it's not great
Like this is the cool.
in
art,
my
I guess.
opinion.
I don't know.
This one's good. I like this one.
This is apparently the piece that's on display. Like this is the cool art, I guess. I don't know. This is like a used hand towel or something.
This one? He's calling this a used hand towel? Like, it's almost to the point where I kind of feel bad for him because he's not, there's no wonder by which he's viewing the world. There's no curiosity. Like, he wants everything to be bad and wrong all the time. Like, you can clearly see there's something going on here. Like, you know, there's this bowl at the bottom, which I don't know, this looks like maybe some kind of like airbrush or something, but it's got this really soft quality. And then I'm not even sure what this is painted on, but it looks like cloth or something. And then you have the table here with this line. And either this might be supposed to reflect some sort of like floral arrangement or something, but I like the fact that it is like kind of half a depiction and half, you know, not really a depiction. And I'm sure if, you know, Moist Critical heard me describing this stuff in this fashion, he'd call me pretentious, but it's like visually, I think it's a pleasing image, and there's a lot of stuff that it does like correctly. Like the colors are nice. Like I would love to own this piece of art. I think it's really nice. And it's just like, I don't know, a bit of an exploration of, you know, like I don't think this doesn't look like canvas. I kind of like the bleeding effects that you get around this stuff. So I think this is nice. I just, it fucking sucks, honestly, that your first opinion of this, which is, I guess he gets paid to, so he's like, he has to shit on every single thing that he sees. But it's like, if you actually think that way, like, then that kind of sucks, because do you like go outside? Do you even like appreciate the smell of a flower? Like when you see a hummingbird, like, do you care? Does when you see does it do anything for you at all? Or is your capacity to appreciate, you know, beauty completely deleted from your body?
Like they dump some kind of staining liquid on it.
Dude, he's such an asshole. He's such a fucking asshole. It's like anything that isn't just a fucking pencil drawn bust of a person is crap. It's like, dude, fucking grow the fuck up and like try to view something in a way that challenges your expectations.
Or something, like they dump some kind of staining liquid on it. Wow. They're doing a good job here. Wow. Sowing as the world ends. I wish that I had sailed the darkened seas. You gotta really stop and digest this one, actually. There's a lot going on here. It's everything that it's not saying. And that's what makes it so powerful.
I don't even know what his like criticism of this is. Like, what doesn't he like about it? I'd be interested in, like, what is the problem? This one at least like resembles a real life picture, which I would think that he wants, which is somebody watching TV.
That it's not saying. And that's what makes it so powerful. Yeah, this pretty much sums up most art exhibits, I imagine. Here's some canvases that there's like some scribbles on it somewhere in there. I don't know, just hanging up, put like 50 grand on it. Someone's gonna buy it. Wow, this looks fun. Fuck, it really makes you think. This is like when Squidward went to that place to be all alone. This is just a bunch of boxes.
All right, this one's a little funny, but I mean, I wouldn't judge it until I understand, like, or until I tried to understand what else was going on, you know, within the concept of like, or the exhibition or whatever.
Merlin, you've outdone yourself here. Exquisite. Like, you have to ask yourself, what's in those boxes? Are we
Like, it could be complete crap, but there might be something, you know, kind of interesting. Like, you know, people, it is conceivable that somebody would stack a bunch of boxes on top of each other, and that would make sense in a grander narrative, you know? But that's like, art can be difficult to understand, and it can be challenging. Like, it's not like I just can't help but think every single fucking thing. This guy just wants, you know, the Mona Lisa painted 100,000 times forever. Like, I don't know. I almost, like, it is a little sad that there's people, you know, whose opinions are being reinforced by somebody like Moist Critical, and there's guys like, I read a comment that was like, oh, as an artist, this, like, you know, Charlie is so right. It's like, well, what kind of art are you doing? Are you like doing like Microsoft Paint, like furry porn, and then posting that on your like IG page and then getting 5 likes and being like, life is so unfair? Like, is that what you're doing? I don't know. It just, like, fine art is the last thing that somebody like Moist Critical should be looking at.
purchasing too much? It's a display of excess. And you see how the boxes aren't all lined up the same? There's a pattern to it. There's order in the chaos. And then you also have to wonder who packed these boxes. Is it Amazon workers that are miserable and you can feel the hate? Is it someone like maybe a home business with a family that packed it? There's just so many things you have to ask yourself. This really is a challenging piece. Again, I don't know. Is this evidence in like a crime scene or something? I don't understand. It's a melting seal from Eric Andre's. They had a really obvious fake art setup that was meant to be destroyed and nobody even noticed. I think I remember that vaguely. There's been a couple people that have done that. I don't remember who, but someone set up an art exhibit that was open to the public, and it was just nothing. It was just an empty white room, and that was the art. And people went in there and were taking pictures and losing their mind over it. Art, like modern art, is one of the most bafflingly outrageous things to me. And the thing is, I never see anyone defend it.
Again, it's like the typical Charlie strategy. It's bafflingly outrageous. Like, well, try to figure it out then. You know, the same shit that he always does. I don't get this. This doesn't make sense to me. Of course it's not going to make sense to you. You've never tried to learn.
I literally never see anybody online defend it that isn't also laundering money with art themselves. Like, it blows my fucking mind. Nowhere on the internet do I see anyone like, no, Charlie, actually, Damien Hirst's pieces are pretty thought-provoking. Those pills kind of changed my life when I saw it. Nobody says that. But like the pretentious, weird art world where everyone's super rich and dumb.
His paintings are some of the most overtly political and excessive oil paintings out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I guess he's saying that unless you're rich, you, like, everybody who's saying they like modern art is lying. I don't know. I went to the Tate Modern in London a few years ago, and I saw like a room full of Rothkos, and it was really cool. You know, some of this stuff, believe it or not, like a Rothko, maybe it doesn't look that cool on your computer screen. Maybe that's possible. Maybe if you go see one of these things in real life, it's drastically different. When I went, there was like an energy in the room when all of these paintings were together. Like, you have to mentally want to fucking get something out of this shit too. Like, if you go in there with the mindset that all of this is gonna suck, you're not gonna like be in a headspace where you can appreciate like small things, like, you know, how the quality of light in that huge room was affected by the colors of all of the paintings. There was almost like a sound I could hear in my ears when I was there. And again, I'm not a fucking art, you know, snob or like art aficionado or something. I'm like, you know, I'm like a fucking regular dude, but I have a capacity, you know, to appreciate shit. And some of the art in that museum, I was like, I don't like this. I don't think it's very good. But like, you know, I'm not just gonna shit on a fucking Rothko automatically because I hate all modern art and I've only ever looked at this shit on my computer screen on a live stream with a bunch of people who, you know, who draw anime and wonder why they're not rich.
there. And like Kincaid, they are technically
Oh,
competent.
oh,
I wouldn't say they are breathtakingly skillful, but he's probably a better painter than most people. His paintings were serene, peaceful
Thanks,
perfect
Yusuf
scenes
Cosmic.
without pain or suffering. Ironically, his life was anything but. Behind the artificiality of these idyllic scenes is the all-too-real reality of human folly.
That was a very nice video. That was very interesting.
All right. Well, there's another one of Moist Critical just watching a fucking video and, you know, just calling Jackson Pollock shit. Oh, man. For 12 minutes and 50 seconds. If I made that, if I was the guy who made this video, I'd fucking sue Moist Critical. I'd copyright strike his channel because that shit was not even remotely transformative. All right, well, this one was a bit more topical. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe we'll watch his opinion on AI art is taking over next. I'm trying to get my friend to come on and us to do a dual Moist Critical watch. But yeah, hope this one was interesting for you guys. And may Moist Infidel be judged in the afterlife.